So the Alumni Career Connection program is put on by both the Fleischman Center and the Office of Alumni Engagement. For those of you that don't know, we like to bring alumni back to campus to share their stories with you. So we're really excited to have Sal join us today. He has quite a story, which is I'm really excited to hear it, and I know you all are as well. Feel free, Sal's going to do a quick intro of how he got to where he is, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So feel free to ask questions at that point. Take notes. If Sal says anything that you are inquisitive of, make sure you ask those questions. So Sal, I'll turn it over to you to get started.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I know people will be watching this on a replay and on YouTube. And, for the people we have live as well, feel free to ask any questions as we go. I wish when I was in college at your point, I had enough brain power to even ask the right questions. I didn't know what I should or shouldn't ask at the time. But a little bit about my background: graduated from Binghamton in 1997. And I'm reminded every day of how much older I'm getting. But it seems like just yesterday I was at the university and planning my future. And, fast forward, here we are. But I went to Binghamton. I graduated from the School of Management with finance and a computer science mix there. And I do want to share this story because I actually tell everyone this story. When I got to Binghamton, I was very good in math. So everybody was convinced that I was going to be an accountant. I don't know why, but that was the path they started pushing me to. You can already tell I love talking to people. I'm very interactive, and you'll get the sense of my personality as we go. And I laugh when I tell this story because I'm not an accountant. I can't even imagine being in a room filled with accountants and accounting jokes and accounting personalities. Just was not wasn't my path in life. And so I remember working with an advisor, and they're like, okay, then you're going to have to switch your major. I'm in my junior year. You can relate to this. And they're like, so we'll switch you over to finance. So I switch over to a finance major, and I'm like, oh my God, this is worse. And so finally it got to a point where if I was going to graduate, I had to get really serious. So think about the time, 1997, the internet was just becoming a thing. And so they're like, okay, I'm good in math. You're good in computer science. So they started putting me in advanced. I was taking graduate computer science courses as an undergrad because I actually wrote my first computer program at 8 years old, believe it or not. So it was very left brain, right brain. And I ended up graduating. And it turns out the internet explodes. And very quickly, having a business degree and a computer science background became a very important asset to have and offer employers. So out of college, I was recruited by Procter & Gamble and moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. From there, I jumped around. I'm very entrepreneurial. You'll learn that about me. But I jumped around looking for more money. And, of course, my experience was growing. And from there, I got recruited by Microsoft. And so I ended up spending over 10 years working in corporate America at Microsoft, which we all know. And but the whole time, I was doing photography on the side. So photography was always my passion ever since I was a teenager. I was exposed to it at a very young age, but there was no money in photography. That's what I was told. And so my parents were like, you're going to go to law school, you're going to get your degree. And that was kind of the path I was starting down, pre-law and going down that path. But I hated what I was doing, and I was passionate about photography. And so anyone watching this, later on, I'm telling you, follow your passion. That is probably the single most important piece of advice I could give you. I'm not saying follow your passion to be a barista. That's not the advice I'm giving you. I'm saying find where there's an intersection of what you love doing and where you can make money at it. And it might require you to be a little bit more entrepreneurial, and we'll talk about that as we go. But it's very important. At 50 years old today, the only regret I have is that I didn't figure out what I love doing maybe about 5 or 10 years sooner. But that's kind of my only regret. After that stint in corporate, I started my own company, which is Salvatore Cincotta Photography. And I'm going to share something with you. Is there any way to allow me to share my screen, Tenley?
Yeah.
There we go. So what I'm going to share with you right now is this is home base for us. So the building you're looking at on the right, that is where we are broadcasting to you right now from. So that's we own the building. It's a 12,000 square foot commercial space that I bought and completely rehabilitated. And that's very reminiscent. Remember, for those of you who don't know, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So I'm a native New Yorker. And I wanted something today. We're in O'Fallon, Illinois, which I promise you is no place overly exciting on the map. It's outside of St. Louis. So we're not near Chicago. We're outside of St. Louis. And I wanted something that felt very city, felt very urban. And it's this 100-year-old historic building. But I started my business that exists today in 2006 in my basement. And so being an entrepreneur, following your dreams, you know, sometimes you got to take some risk, and we did. But it paid off incredibly well. Today, we have been on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in America 3 years in a row. And it's really no small feat when you think about it. You know, we came out of a university. We were able to pursue our dreams. We didn't have anything handed to us. We didn't have, you know, rich parents. You know, I didn't have a family that was backing me. I just kind of worked and grounded out based on what I wanted to do, what I wanted to pursue. And today, we have 8 different companies operating out of this building. And so, you know, it's just important to have that in the back of your head. I'm not sharing this with you guys as a humble brag by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sharing it with you just so that you have perspective, you have something to dream and chase. And I think it's so important that when you're in college at the level you're at right now, that you are thinking about your future beyond just trying to get a job. Yeah, of course you want to get a job. We all do. That's important, especially in this day and age. But I think we need more than just trying to get a job. We need to be thinking about what's going to make us happy, what's going to make us whole, and then what is that path to get there? And that path isn't always clear, and it's definitely not a straight line, right? It's a little bit of a zigzag. Remember, I graduated with a business degree, and while yes, today I have businesses, I'm an artist, and so I didn't go to art school. And so that path is what I say is a little bit more of a zigzag. So I don't know, is this making sense, guys? Do you have questions? You know, what are you guys doing? Share with me what your majors are and what you want to be when you grow up, and hopefully you'll never grow up. Caitlin, I see your face. So tell me, where are you at what's your major and what do you want to do?
Hi, I'm majoring in accounting, actually.
Caitlin, let's talk, girl.
In high school, I took 2 accounting classes and I really liked it. So I decided I'm going to try to follow that. And so far, I'm really liking it.
So what do you like most about it, Caitlin? I remember when I was majoring in accounting, the favorite part for me was like solving the puzzle, right? Getting that left column and right column to match. That was what I loved. Is that what you love about it?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of math. So
yeah, same for me. And that's how I got thrown into that. So let me ask you this, Caitlin, when you think about your future and where you want to be from an accounting perspective, and maybe you're not that far into this yet, do you want to be out on your own? Do you want to have your own private practice? Do you want to get a couple of years of experience working for, you know, a top 5? Where's your head at? What have you been thinking about?
I think I probably don't want to work for myself. I'm not as much of a risk taker as you seem to be. So
that's fair. Caitlin, you're already ahead of the game, right? You know what you want, what you're looking for. And I think that's part of the process is having a little bit of vision. And I will say something that I just didn't have at your age is vision. I really had no idea what I wanted or where I wanted to be. And it's that entrepreneurial spirit that kept me bouncing around to try and figure out what I was looking for. So kudos to you. All right, hold on. Omar's not talking. We're going to get chat from Omar. I like it. So Omar is industrial and system engineering, working on my PhD. Kudos to you, Omar. So Omar, where do you want to be with industrial and system engineering? That's no joke of a degree, let alone getting your PhD. Do you want to pursue the academic side of things, or do you want to go into kind of like a commercial startup, route, right? You've got some options there.
Omar's computer does not have a microphone or video, so that's why he's chat only.
Oh, okay. No worries, Omar. And I'll wait for Omar to write back. But both of you, do you have questions for me, or, Tenley, what questions do we have, queued up that we can kind of talk through? And Caitlin, do you have any questions or curiosity?
Who, like, besides pushing yourself to follow what you want to do, were there any people in your life who were supporting you in that? Who were those people?
Oh man, Caitlin, that's an awesome question. Okay, so a little bit about my background. Maybe it's TMI and sharing. Before I went to college, again, I grew up in the city to parents who immigrated. I'm half Italian, half Lebanese, so both sides of my family were immigrants into this country, and we really didn't have anything. We didn't have money. We didn't have any financial means. I could still remember the electricity being turned off in my home as a teen because we couldn't afford our bills. And I think something like that probably, because this happened when I was 12 and 13 and 14, it's something like that I think really did shape kind of my psyche, if you will, right? It made me hungry to want to get ahead. And my dad was Italian, and I would say not very supportive, meaning his mindset was, you get a job, you work, you die. Like, I mean, that was his kind of mindset, being, old school. Whereas my mother was very much, I think, a dreamer, and probably more of a driving force behind who I became. And I will tell you this, Caitlin, I was never, you said you're not as much of a risk taker as I seem to be. I was never smart enough to realize that I was taking risk. I don't know if that makes any sense. My mom would just constantly be in my ear, even though behind the scenes, she was scared to death at some of the risks I was taking with my career and business. And I only know this later in life because we talk about it. But at the time, she was always kind of behind me, encouraging me to go chase something, to go pursue something, to go fail, right? And I think failure is an important part of the process. And by the way, failure isn't something that should be unique to entrepreneurs. Failure is something that happens at school, right? Out of school, at your first job, so failure, I think, is part of the learning process. And in my opinion, at a university level, and I know I could possibly be misspeaking because I'm going back to when I was there, we're almost shielded from that a little bit, right? Like, and I think that should stop. I think we have to fail and learn how to fail. But most importantly, it's not just learning how to fail, it's learning from the failure. And I think that, along with the encouragement from my mother, she was, again, the motivating force. That mindset of like, okay, I did fail. That sucked. I don't like the way that felt. I don't want to ever do that again. I think having that mindset ingrained in me helped me move forward and continue to be a successful entrepreneur. Does that make sense? Long answer to your question, but it was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Omar, Tenley, anything you guys got? I'm here.
I have a question.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about failure and how important it is and how to learn from it. So how do you bounce back from failure? Because I know a bunch of different people take different tactics. Kind of what is yours?
Yeah. Look, I hate failing. I mean, if you want to get under my skin, and with 8 successful businesses, I would be lying to anyone ever watching this, even to my future self, looking back on this, if I acted like, we had it all figured out. And every time we come up with a new business idea, it's, uber successful. It's not. In fact, it's probably, for every 10 ideas you have, maybe 2 are successful when it comes to that, and so bouncing back from failure, I think what has allowed us to truly be successful with that and use that to our advantage is understanding that when we fail, there has to be an analysis of the failure, right? And it's this introspective look at why you failed versus, I see a lot of entrepreneurs do this, by the way, and just a lot of people in general. When we fail, it's someone else's fault. It was, you know, and it could be someone else's fault at a personal level, like it was Bob's fault, right? It's very personal. It was one person. Or it could be someone else's fault as if environmental issues caused the failure. And that's very dangerous, by the way, right? If you fail, you really have to look at why did you fail? And don't get me wrong, it could be environmental issues, right? If I come up with like, you know, we're going to sell ice to Eskimos and they're going to love it. And then that fails. Well, okay, that's a bad idea, my fault. And the environment, you know, we're in, you know, the North Pole. Well, why are we selling ice to people who can just go outside and chip it? So, right, I'm making this up, bear with me. But I think you have to be able to step back and go, here's what we did right. And this goes back to, I think, business people are very good at what's called a SWOT analysis. And this stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when you look at your business, and by the way, you could look at your own personal career that way. What am I good at? My strengths. What am I weak at, right? What are threats to my success? And what opportunities are there for me? So for example, if I just rewind and apply this to 1997, when I suddenly shifted into a computer science minor, what was the opportunity? The opportunity was the internet was coming online and corporations needed people who were not just computer nerds and geeks, but somebody who understood the business part of it and could articulate and had good communication skills. That was therefore an opportunity for success. So we kind of take that critical thinking and step back and we go, okay, with this idea, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What could we do better next time? And everything else we don't dwell on, right? We go through that exercise, we adjust, and we retry the idea or the next variation of that idea. So there's never a moment where we're dwelling and we're like, God, I'm so stupid. We suck. You know, there's never any of that. It's like quick. Okay, how did we screw this up? What went right? What went wrong? What can we do better? Bam, new game plan. Let's go get it. And that's kind of been the mindset. And I'm going to share something with you. Hey, Alyssa, could you get me one of the bags? This is a perfect example of doing something right and entrepreneurial spirit that truly did scare the crap out of me. So I'm a photographer. What industry do I know? I know the industry of photography. And so what do photographers do? They got to carry their camera equipment wherever they go. And most of the camera equipment that's out there for us is heavy, bulky, or the bags are heavy, bulky, and not real practical for use. So I was on an airplane one day, and we're traveling for work, and I start sketching out on a napkin what a camera bag would and should look like. And within 48 hours of drawing that sketch, we were scheduling meetings in China to fly to China and start fulfilling these bags. By the way, if you're in business school, I think there's like a chapter in possibly strategic management course. There's maybe a chapter on doing business internationally. I knew nothing at the time of doing business internationally. I had no idea what to do, where to even start. And so we start Googling stuff. We start, drawing stuff out. We start connecting with people. We schedule our flights to China. We go to like 4 or 5 different factories throughout China. I have a business translator with me who understands what I'm trying to do. And I'm walking into these factories with a sketch. Today, here's the bag that we produced. It's known as the bug out bag. And so we produce these. And there's a whole host of things. I'm not trying to sell bags to, the alumni, but there's a host of things here that make the bag very unique to working photographers. And so what makes it unique is beyond the scope of this conversation. The point is, without knowing anything, I took a chance. And the chance almost completely got derailed. We tried to sell the bag before ever ordering the bag, by the way. We tried selling the bag on Kickstarter. So most people are familiar with Kickstarter, right? People come up with ideas, and then all of a sudden you're like, there's just, riches at the end of the rainbow. They're like, they sold $3 million on Kickstarter. Yeah, well, we did not sell $3 million on Kickstarter. With the bag, we were able to generate only $30,000 in pre-order sales based on the sketch. That $30,000 in sales was not enough to even cover the initial minimum order that we would have had to have placed. So on Kickstarter, it failed. Our goal was 100,000. We were only able to raise 30, 35,000, whatever it was. I had a decision to make, guys. I had to either quit and just go, this bag's not meant to be. Nobody thinks it's a good idea. Or I had to put my money where my mouth was and back this bag with my own money, my own cash, and then hope to be able to sell it in an open marketplace. Well, as I'm sure you're starting to figure out about me, I took that risk. We went over there, fulfilled the bag on our own. I paid $50,000 cash out of my own pocket to order, right, the north of 1,000 units of these bags. I mean, can you imagine if we didn't sell these bags? I'd have bags in my living room for the rest of my life, just sitting there. And knock on wood, knock on something, the marketplace did react to that. And to this date, this single bag that was drawn on a napkin has generated over $600,000 in revenue from something that I drew on a napkin. So everything I've just said leading up to this moment on failure actually applies to this bag. We did fail. By every measuring stick with Kickstarter, we failed, right? It didn't work. Nobody thought it was a good bag. It failed. I could have quit, run with my tail, between my legs. Instead, I said, what are we doing right here? What are we doing wrong? What do we need to tweak to get this to be successful? And then all those things came together to lead to where we are today. Does that kind of make sense? See, Caitlin, I need people like you, accountants, to tell me what success and failure is when it comes to financials. What other, let's take a few more questions, Tenley.
Did you ever take a photography class at Binghamton when you were here on the side?
No, I've never taken a photography class in my life. And I don't know if I'm saying that with pride or saying that with shame, to be honest with you. So, my work, and for those of you watching, make sure you go to our website. It's salcincada.com. Check out our work. But we have a very unique view of the world. And so when I started in photography, it was in my aunt's darkroom. I was about, I think it was about 15 or 16 years old at the time. And I got to play in her darkroom. I shot my first wedding at about 17 years old. And that's taken us back to about 1987. And if you look at any wedding pictures from 1987, they're horrible. Everything is very traditional, very posed. The suits were bad. I'm not sure if we still had ruffles back then. I can't remember, but I'm sure some out of trendy people were still wearing that. But it just was not my passion. And but I did love photography. And from that time until I went pro, which is what I do today full time, I was into more landscape photography. And what you'll notice if you go to my website and you look at my work, you'll notice that the photography is very landscape and architecture heavy, meaning I take pictures, these big dramatic portraits that'll have a bride and groom in them, and then there'll be a giant building or a mountain or something behind them in the frame. And that is how I became successful, quite honestly, because that style of photography 15 years ago wasn't really a thing. But here's what I realized 15 years ago. I'm like, if I want to make money at photography, it's definitely not going to be selling landscape photography. Anybody can do that. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. It's just anybody can walk up to a cliff, pull out their iPhone and take a picture. Convincing them to spend money on that is very difficult. But there are some landscape photographers out there who make a fortune. So what I realized was, if I take that picture of a mountain and I put a bride and groom in there, I can actually sell that. And that's actually the beginning of how I started to become a professional photographer that makes money at this, is just kind of, once again, through that trial and error and looking at it and going, what do people want? What are they willing to spend money on? And it was that kind of epic, dramatic portrait of them in this seemingly surreal environment, that was where success came from. And that's what we built all the companies we have today. And so to that point, if I expand on that, you know, we own a magazine. So this is Shutter Magazine. It's produced monthly. It's available in Barnes and Noble. And it is the largest professional photography magazine in the world. And we are, I think are we on our 8th year, Alyssa? So we are at, so this January will be our 100th issue with the magazine. That's incredible if you think about it. And so we started that right here in O'Fallon, Illinois, not in New York, not in California, not in the, you know, the more known creative, you know, hot spots in the country. We started here in O'Fallon, Illinois. And that's super cool when you step back and think about it, that a guy who did horrible in English, by the way, now is the, you know, editor and publisher of a magazine that's, you know, one of the top magazines in the world. That should get you excited when you start thinking about what the opportunities are for you in the future.
Hey, Sal, on that note, one thing that our office has been working with Tenley's office on is to expose students to different areas that are outside of that, you know, greater New York area, since we have such a student body there, or, you know, so much of our student body comes from there originally. But we found with COVID that students are looking to like branch out. So can you know, share any helpful tips if they're looking for work or looking to relocate anywhere outside of, say, Binghamton or even like the New York City area, or how maybe you've gone about doing that before, if you used any of the resources through the alumni office or anything like that too?
Yeah, perfect. Well, I can tell you as, again, someone who's a native New Yorker, that we tend to get a little bit of tunnel vision, right? So we think it's like New York, Chicago, Florida, Vegas, LA, and then everything else is just flyover country. And nothing could be further from the truth. But I will tell you, even when I graduated in '97, I remember, you know, I got my job at Procter & Gamble and I moved to Cincinnati, and all my friends were like, where's that? I'm like, oh, it's in Ohio. Ohio? What's in Ohio? It's cows. And I'm like, well, no, like, you know, there's more to it than that. But the typical New Yorker mindset is really, or anybody out of the Northeast, is it's kind of like that's the center of the universe. And don't get me wrong, I miss being home in New York. There's, you know, there's a lot of culture there that sometimes is missing in the Midwest. But I will tell you that that is changing, not only with COVID, but just with technology in general. People are able to kind of still have those creature comforts, right? We didn't have e-commerce. You couldn't buy things on the internet in '97 the way you can today. I mean, literally anything you want today can be delivered to you almost anywhere in the world within 24 to 48 hours. That didn't exist back then. So, you know, if I want some food, this is not a lie, and we do it. If I want bagels, because by the way, there is no place in the world where you can get bagels like New York City. So I don't care what anybody says. That is the only place to get that, and New York pizza. So how do I get that stuff? We can actually order that online. The next day it's shipped here in a dry ice box, and I've got New York City bagel. So anyway, wash that from your mind. You can get whatever you want, wherever you want. So why move? Why relocate? Lots of opportunity outside of that part of the world. And I will tell you, one of the things that helped me be successful early on in my career was kind of that Northeast hustle. It's a real thing. When you come out of the Northeast, you've got that kind of just built-in hustle that we take for granted, but it's like your superpower. When you come from the Northeast and then you're moving into the Midwest, they look at you like, dude, slow down. Like, where are you going? What's the rush? But coming out of the Northeast, we're just like, what's your problem, right? I mean, for us, it's just normal. So I'm sharing that with you guys to think about this really from a career decision. If you get out of the Northeast and start looking into the Midwest and other parts of the country that are, quite frankly, really becoming large cosmopolitan areas, places like Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, you know, parts of Texas. Where am I thinking in Texas? Where were we looking at one point? Austin, Texas. These are the places that are hotspots for tech because they can't afford to be in New York like Google and, and in Seattle, Microsoft and all these companies. They're moving into the Midwest because cost of living, that building I showed you guys are going to freak out, but I bought that building for $250,000. It's a 12,000 square foot building. If you're out of the Northeast, I don't know that you could buy a shack for $250,000 in Soho, right? That's a dilapidated building is, $2.5 million, for you there. So there's opportunity for you to kind of get out and expand your horizons. And yeah, you might not make the same amount of money. New York, you might get $100,000. I'm making up numbers. And in the Midwest, you might get, $60,000. But that $60,000 in the Midwest is actually worth more than the $100,000 in New York. You got to do a little bit of research. And if I'm thinking about myself, this is brutal. When I got out of college, out of Binghamton, my friends, so this is 1997, my friends were getting starting salary of $25,000. It's almost laughable right now. And they were getting starting salaries of $25,000 to $30,000 working in Manhattan. And they had the jobs were starting at a minimum of 60 hours a week, right? And at the time, I think, Caitlin, these were like accounting finance jobs. So it was like KPMG, Anderson, and a couple of others. And it was like minimum 60-hour work weeks, but it was like 60 to 80 hours a week. And it was $25,000 to $30,000. I come out, and that was living in Manhattan. I come out, and Procter & Gamble hired me starting salary at $40,000 living in Cincinnati. And the cost of living was, a fraction of the cost of living in New York. So again, long answer, but I hope that makes sense for you guys. We have a question from Omar. I want to take it. After the COVID impact with accessibility to work from home, which part of the nation will you choose to live at? And I'm going to assume, Omar, I'm going to go with the would I choose because right now I'm stuck here in O'Fallon, Illinois for sure because my business is established. But with the impact, if I had to do it all over again, like today were day zero and I were graduating college or something like that, I would say the part of the country that is most attractive to me, and just so everybody watching has perspective, my job has me on the road 270 days a year. So I'm traveling all over the country, all over the world, doing photo shoots and video production, things like that. A lot of things people may not know, and I didn't share it early on. We were fortunate enough to be able to photograph President Obama twice. So we've worked for the White House. Super cool to have that on your resume. Sports celebrities. So very, very lucky and fortunate to travel the world and see different things. But if I had to do it today, I would say I'd probably relocate I'd be looking to Texas, Austin, San Antonio. That's a really cool, hip part of the country. A lot of infrastructure being put there. Cost of living is affordable. You've got good weather year round. Yeah, in the summer it can be a little bit toasty there, but super, super cool. But that's where if today were day zero and I had an opportunity, that's probably where I would head. Hey, Alyssa, can you adjust exposure on this? Omar, are you asking about the north side of Texas? Or are we talking like Dallas? Well, Houston's more in the east. Oh, the nation. It's cold, man. I don't want to be in the cold. I would say north part of the country. I don't know any place that I've been that I would want to live, right? I mean, Chicago would be north for us. Sorry, everybody who's in, north part of the country. It's nothing personal. It's just, I like my money and I don't want to spend it on high living expenses. But the north part of the country, for whatever reason, Omar, is semi-expensive. I mean, there's probably parts like, Oklahoma, North Dakota, stuff like that, but there's no infrastructure there. No, I think that's where you go if you want to get away. I've been through like Wyoming and Oklahoma and parts like that, but nothing I'd want to move to, brother. Sorry. What else we got, guys?
If you could go back, would you like to change your college major, or are you still glad that you have that business and technology background?
That is probably one of the toughest things for me to answer, Caitlin. Let me think about this two ways. My biggest regret in my career is that I did not finish law school. I really do believe in my heart that I would have been an incredible trial lawyer. I think I would have been an awesome debater for sure. You know, I did debate. I did all those things when I was in college. That's my single regret, that I did not pursue my law degree. So take that off the table. I think that I was, I don't know if you want to say blessed, fortunate to have the major. It worked out the way it should. You know what I mean? Like having a finance and computer science degree, I can look at right now with my own business and really say without a doubt that by having that dual degree, it has helped me be the successful entrepreneur that I am today. So I definitely don't look back on that major and feel as if, man, I really screwed up. You know, I should have done something in, you know, civics or, you know, poli-sci or, you know, anything like that. I have no regrets that way. My only regret is that I did not continue to pursue my education and, you know, take that degree and get my law degree. And I'll tell you what, I actually tried to go back and get my law degree. I started looking at going to Washington University, which is a major university here in St. Louis. And it was, I'm like, I got to do it. I just want to get my law degree. I'm not going to be a practicing lawyer, but it's like that bucket list thing. I want to say I did it. And then Washington University is somewhere in the neighborhood of like $50,000 to $60,000 a year, you know, for the next 3 years to get my law degree. And I was like, no, I'm okay. I don't need it that bad to say I got it. But no, very good question. You know, definitely no regrets. And I don't think you would end up having any regrets either, Caitlin, with your degree. You know, the thing that we talked about earlier is I would say, think past your first job, right? Remember, Caitlin, if I could give you, if you and I were grabbing a cup of coffee and just chit chatting, I would say to you, you know, get your grades, get out of college, get that first job. But I'm telling you, Caitlin, you will not make a career at your first job. That first job is really for you to cut your teeth, get some real world experience, and then parlay that into a career, right? It's very rare that you're going to be able to come right out of college and stick with that first job for that 20-year career. That's just reality speaking, right? And that's also something I think I was very naive about when I was in college, because I didn't have anybody kind of just guiding me that way or explaining that to me on what to expect when I got out of college. In fact, I will tell you that when I got into my first job, I realized how quickly, how ill prepared I was for corporate America. I think at the college and university level, we have to get our degrees. There's a lot to be learned. There's a lot of book smarts we're going to get from that. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of social engagement and networking that we should be doing in college versus just being heads down, book smart. But when you get to that first job, you're going to be overwhelmed, and it's okay. It's a good thing. It's going to keep you sharp, but it's not going to be what you were expecting, right? When you were in college, right? Because when you're in college, you come in and there's a bunch of freshmen together, a bunch of people you have things in common with. And then you're going through college and you're figuring it all out. And then you get to your fourth year, your senior year, maybe you do some grad work and you're like, I got this. I know what to expect. Every year's, you know, the same thing. I'm comfortable. I know where I'm eating. I know where I shop. I know where I sleep. All those comforts are there. And then you get your first job and maybe you have to move. And all of a sudden your bearings are completely thrown off. You're in a new city. You're in a new workplace and it feels like everybody doesn't like you, right? Because you're the new person and you're just a dumb snot-nosed college kid. And now there's people there who've got 5, 10, 20 years experience over you. And Caitlin, Omar, I'm not trying to paint the picture like when you get to corporate America, it's this horrible thing. I'm just saying it's different. And if you're mentally prepared for that, you're going to be fine. If you're caught off guard by that, I think that's where it could force you to retreat a little. So hopefully, Caitlin, Omar, I didn't scare you guys too much with that. Now, Caitlin, what year are you in?
I'm a freshman.
Okay, well, here's what I would do, Caitlin. So here's a better question that I could advise you on. I'll give you the question that you're not even asking. What would I have done different during my 4 years on campus? So during my 4 years during my years on campus, or in college in general, I should say, I played sports, lots of sports. I was on the tennis team at Binghamton. I was on the starting squad, and I wouldn't trade those years for anything. The people I met, the experiences we had were absolutely amazing. But what I didn't do was get any real world experience, because most of my free time was spent at practice and things like that. So if I had to do it all over again, I would have probably spent a little bit more time interning. And even if it wasn't an official intern or a paid internship, I would have spent more time getting that corporate experience, because that would have made me an even better candidate coming out of college. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So make sure you do that as well. Where are you based out of? Are you from New York, or are you based someplace else?
I'm from New Jersey.
New Jersey? We won't hold that against you, Caitlin, that you're from New Jersey. What other questions we got, team?
Well, I was going to ask if there were any student orgs or extracurriculars. I know you just touched on some of the sports, but were there any other student orgs that you participated in?
We did debate. We did obviously tennis, and I think that consumed most of my life. I tried to play like intramural sports, but our tennis coach wouldn't have it because, you know, we could get hurt, something like that. So that was what consumed most of our time, even in the off season. So it was really focusing on academics and then staying in shape. That was probably the most brutal part for me. I'll never forget, we had to run 6-minute miles to qualify for the tennis team. So it didn't matter how good of an athlete you were. It didn't matter how good of a tennis player you were. Part of making the starting squad, the varsity squad, was a 6-minute mile. And thank God I had a coach and teammates who pushed me, because I think I ran the 6-minute mile once, and I'm gonna say I think they lied. I think they stopped it at 6 minutes just so that I could complete the 6-minute mile. So speed was not my gift in life, guys.
So Sal, you talked a little bit about your parents had an idea of what they wanted you to do, and then you started following that, and then you decided you wanted to switch. Did you ever have a conversation with your parents about how you wanted to switch? I know there are some students on campus that are in the same boat that you're in. So just curious if you have any insight to that.
Yeah, no, I did. It was tough. It was tough having a conversation with a mother who had basically cashed in her retirement plan to be able to send me to school. So it was pretty tough to have that conversation. But she knew I didn't love what I was doing, and was still happy that I was getting a business degree. I don't think my mom knew or understood enough to know the difference between, you know, finance or an accounting degree in general, like what it meant, you know, post-college. She just knew I was getting a business degree. I was going to be one of the first in our family to graduate college. That was something that my family was very prideful about. And that's really, I think, all that mattered. The difficult conversations with my family came post-college. For example, a company like Procter & Gamble is truly a company that you get hired by and you spend 20 years there. You spend your career there and you retire from there, because it's one of the, I mean, with stock options, most people retire from Procter & Gamble multimillionaires. So here I am, 2 years at Procter & Gamble, and I tell my parents I'm quitting. And they were horrified. Well, where are you going? Now, I didn't go from Procter & Gamble to Microsoft. I went from Procter & Gamble out because the IT world was exploding. And so I went from Procter & Gamble out on my own to be an independent consultant. I mean, when I think back to how I must have made my parents crazy, because I don't know what I was thinking with 2 years of experience, thinking I was going to walk out of corporate job and just be like, yeah, here's how much money I want to make and you're going to pay it with 2 years experience. But whatever it was, call it that New York edge, that hustle. I walked out of Procter & Gamble and I went from in 2 years, I went from making $40,000 a year to making $80,000 a year with only 2 years of experience. And from there, I went from making $80,000 a year to making $250,000 a year because I started doing independent consulting work and I was bouncing all over the country. I actually lived in Albany, New York for about a year after I had an apartment in Cincinnati and got a job at a finance company in Albany, hired me as an independent consultant. And Monday through Friday, I lived in a motel in Albany, New York, charging them by the hour. And then on the weekend, I'd go back to Cincinnati and do it all over again. And I did that for about a year as I was growing my career. And then all of a sudden, Microsoft came along and hired me there. So every step of the way, you know, my family's like, what are you doing? They couldn't wrap their head around it. And even to this today, to what we have built, right? We're an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company in America. When I quit my job at Microsoft, I really did think not only my mother was going to lose her mind, my coworkers at Microsoft, they asked me, they're like, where, you know, they thought for sure that when I gave my notice at Microsoft, they thought for sure that I was going to work at a competitor, which is like Oracle, IBM, a major Microsoft competitor. And when I said to them, no, I'm going to be a photographer, there was silence from everyone because they were like, dude, you're at Microsoft. I was making over $200,000 a year, to give you guys perspective. This is 15 years ago, guys. So I was one of their top consultants at Microsoft. I was traveling the country. I was focused on big companies, but because I had a computer science and business degree, I was sitting down with the, you know, chief information officers of Hilton Hotel, Pepsi, FedEx. Those were my accounts. I'm making good money. I'm in a good circle. And now here I am, I'm quitting to be a photographer. And by the way, when I quit, I didn't think I was quitting for riches, right? No one had ever come to me and be like, hey, if you're a photographer, you can make millions of dollars a year. That was not, it was the opposite. If you're an artist, you're going to be broke. So, but I didn't care. I wanted to do what I loved. I wanted to do what I was passionate about. I felt like life was just too short. And I just wanted to do what I loved. And my mother acquiesced, right? She's like, okay, I want you to be happy too. And, you know, but this doesn't make sense to me, all that school, all that education. And now you're just going to be a photographer. Right. And that was, you know, the fire that motivated me to do the things I do, to go off and create a bag, to go off and create a, you know, a magazine and do all these things. Like, you know, there's got to be a little bit of that fire in your belly. And don't ever let anyone, you know, and this is for, you know, my future Sal watching this video. This is for any student and alumni watching it. Don't ever let anyone tell you it can't be done. You know, I know we're approaching towards the end of this time here, but do not let anyone, not family, not friends, not even peers, right, tell you it can't be done. Whatever you put your head to, it absolutely can be done. And that is the toughest part of what you're going to face in the real world, right? Anyone watching this, the biggest challenge you're going to face is not only doubt, outside doubt, it's going to be internal doubt. Am I good enough? Can I do this? Maybe they're right. Maybe this is a bad idea. All those crazy things start creeping into your head. And those are the things that crush dreams, nothing else. Get out there, fail, chase your dreams, pursue those dreams, fail, fall on your face, get back up, go after it again. Whatever you want to do, it is absolutely possible. That is what makes this country one of the best countries in the world, is that we have the opportunity to go after and pursue our dreams. You're not guaranteed success. That's not the promise. It's the pursuit of that success. And by the way, success cannot be defined by me. Success cannot be defined by your parents, you know, by your instructors, your professors. Success is defined by you. If success to you is raising a family, having 3 kids and a white picket fence, then go after that with every ounce of energy in your body. If success to you is working at a stable job, for 20 years, don't listen to me. Go after that. Go do it. If success is to be an entrepreneur, go after that. Go do it. Don't let anybody tell you what success is or shouldn't be. And it could, some people's success is financial. For me today, I would say success is changing. I would say over the last 10 years, success for me was financial. I was chasing a number. I wanted to make a certain amount of money every year, and I've hit that, and I've achieved that goal. Now what? What is success? Success for me at this stage of my life and career at 50 is I'm looking for my exit strategy. How do I start slowing down? How do I, maybe sell my companies? How do I look? What does retirement look like for me? And if you can tell anything from this time we've spent together, you know that retirement for me is not going to be Sal's on a beach somewhere, doing nothing. Retirement for me will be, instead of having 8 companies, maybe I'll just have 1. And that would be, definition of success, for me as I get older in life. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully we've inspired somebody from this to go chase their dreams and, define your own level of success.
We have time for one more question. Omar and Caitlin, if you have it.
Yeah, if Omar has a question, hit me. Even Caitlin, if you have something, let me know before we wrap.
So I guess if not, my question, or I guess more comment, would be if there's anything, looking back on your journey, Sal, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently? Or is there any advice you just want to give in general to whoever's viewing?
Let's see. Anything I would have or wouldn't have done differently. I think I've kind of hit on this a little bit already, but I think I wasted an early part of my career, both at university level and out of college, listening to other people. That's why I think you kind of heard a little bit of that passion in me as I was wrapping up here. I gave a little bit too much weight to people around me that I should not have been listening to. And that I think just wasted a lot of time for me. I'm very happy and fortunate that I made it out of that kind of self-doubt or just doubt in general that was just being put in my head. Can't be done. That's not the way to do it. Just get a job. You retire someday. That kind of crazy talk. It took me probably a good 5 or 6 years, honestly, outside of college to get to a point where I understood what I wanted to be and what I wanted out of life. And so I don't know how I would have done it differently. I don't know how I would have gotten there sooner. Maybe it would have been nice to have a mentor, somebody that I could just reach out to, somebody I could bounce things off of. But I didn't have that. And so I had to figure out a lot of this on my own. But that's kind of the only thing I wish I would have done a little differently, is found my way a little sooner.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Sal, for spending time with us and for sharing your story. And I hope everyone really enjoyed it. I know I did. So thank you again.
You're welcome. And I hope next year we can get out and get on campus. That'd be a lot of fun too.
Yes, it's changed quite a lot. Yeah, a lot of people say it's now like a resort.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. I've had some alumni discuss